hiking on the Vercors Massif in eastern France, extended cut. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I wanted to jump straight back into it here and share a more in-depth experience based on the last video of us hiking in the Vercors Massif in eastern France with my good friend and international mountain leader Gareth. If you've not seen that video, I'll leave a link for it somewhere at the top so you can either watch it before this one or you can bookmark it to watch afterwards. I'll cover a few things in this one though to give a bit more of a sense of what the trip was like, including why we did it, the original plan and why it changed, the routes we took on day 1, 2 and 3, and the full distance and ascent. If you've got any questions about this video as you watch it, make sure you leave comments in the comment section below and I'll get round to answering them at the end, and I'll make sure I get back to every single one of you. So, why did this trip take place? So me and Gareth met during our summer mountain leader training in Snowdonia around 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember how long ago it was now, to be honest, and we've kept in contact ever since. I've visited him before in France where he lives, and we always plan to go on a snowshoeing trip at least once a year. This year we decided to do a recce trip over a few days to see what it was like hiking into the Vercors Massif. This was all in preparation for a longer snowshoeing trip that we are currently looking at planning to do in 2026. So what was the original plan? So the plan was to snowshoe into the Alps and stay in refuges overnight, which are huts on the side of the mountain. But the week I arrived, the day before actually, they had a good 1 meter plus of fresh snow up high. So some of the ground we planned to traverse posed too much of an avalanche risk. So we ended up switching the trip to do a recce of the Vercors Massif instead. So if we were going to hike and stay in the refuges, we wouldn't have needed tents. Things like this happen, so looks like we were in the tents for a few nights. In the rest of this video, I'm going to share and talk about the routes we took over the 3 days and 2 nights. I'll also put up a few clips showing what the route and terrain was like as we hiked across the Vercors Massif. So what is the Vercors Massif? To give a bit of context, the Vercors Massif lies in the Pre-Alps in southeast France and spans around 520 square miles, with its highest point being Le Grand Veymont, which stands at around 2,341 metres. And it's a pretty epic looking mountain at that. So day 1 saw us start in the late afternoon around 1 PM in the Montaguile area. We hiked through dense forest and woodland under the imposing cliffs of Montaguile and then up onto the plateau at the Vercors, arriving around about 4 PM. This map shows a section we took from the valley floor up to our first camp spot on the plateau. Hiking this way was pretty cool through the alpine forest, across the large ski slopes and onto a short ridge line at Col de Laupette, finally reaching the plateau at the top. Weather was on our side as well. It was pretty sunny and it was quite warm. So there is a rule on the Vercors, and there's plenty of signs around to constantly remind you of this. If you're camping on the high plateau, your tents can't go up before 5 PM and they must be down and away by 9 AM the following morning. Makes sense really, because the last thing you want to see across a landscape on holiday is a sea of tents across a plateau. We made a plan for the next day to hike to the summit of Le Grand Veymont. You can see it in this video. It's the highest peak on the Massif at 2,341 metres, and actually the highest peak I've ever climbed, which was pretty cool to be fair. That evening we were treated to an incredible sunset. The colours were spectacular. From then it was an early night, heads down in the tents around 9 PM, ready for an early start the next day. So the next day we got up early and we set off to the summit of Le Grand Veymont in the morning. Gareth did tell me the night before that we were in with a good chance of spotting some wildlife during this trip, and the early morning seems to be the best time to spot a lot of wildlife. Definitely didn't disappoint. Before starting our ascent we stopped for a brief breakfast and a coffee stop. Got to fuel up before you get going. As we hiked we had a huge bearded vulture fly past us with a wingspan of at least 2.5 metres. It gained altitude, started circling above the summit of the mountain we was heading to, and honestly I never knew we'd have seen vultures in the Alps, to be fair. We also saw some alpine ibex with their huge horns as we approached the base of the mountain, along with some chamois, which are small goat-like antelope hovering around the slopes up high as we ascended towards the snow line. When we got to the top, we decided we were going to traverse the mountain, come down on the opposite side, which would lead us back down to the plateau where we could hike through the alpine woodland to where we was going to camp next. This map shows the section we took hiking from our first camp spot down to the foot of Le Grand Vermont. From here it was a hike up steep slopes on a stone path with a ton of short, sharp switchbacks. At the snow line started to get a little bit icy and wind started to really pick up significantly. It looked like there was a bit of a storm blowing in. I didn't take any photos or videos of the summit. We didn't stay for too long. We did meet a few others braving the elements. We stopped, we had a chat, or much Gareth had a chat in French, and then we quickly decided to descend ourselves. Once we reached the other side of the mountain, it was a long hike through alpine woodlands towards where we were going to spend our second night camping. We were going to be a little lower down than we were the first night. There was plenty to see through the woods, but not much visible wildlife in the day. Plenty of artefacts left behind by the French resistance during the war, and a few refuges which belonged to sheep herders and people herding cattle through the summer. Just before getting to the camp spot, we found a place we could refill water bottles, get fully hydrated, and then have enough water for the next day also. So our second night was spent at a lower altitude than the first. And the reason for this, to be honest, was that the weather was turning and we didn't want to be exposed on a windy summit. And it's a good job we did as well. By the time we found a place to pitch, luckily for us, sheltered on three sides by a small outcrop of trees, the wind had really started to pick up significantly. It was forecast to rain, and it did just that. Torrential rain all night until the early hours of the morning. During the night, winds gusted up to around 90 kilometers an hour, and a huge thunder and lightning storm swept over us all night. I got up early the next morning as the rain had all but stopped, thankfully. I took a little walk around. It was a pretty moody morning to say the least, and the weather hadn't fully cleared, so we made a quick exit after some breakfast and coffee. The visibility that morning, and actually throughout the rest of the day, had deteriorated on the way down massively, so we did have to put some of our navigation skills to the test. This map shows the section we took hiking out from our camp spot on the second night. Most of it was through alpine forests. We also came across a few privately owned refuge buildings on our descent, before passing a memorial to the French resistance fighters who were trapped in a cave in 1944 under German fire in World War II. There's some fantastic history around this area and well worth exploring. It was then a long, steep, winding descent down towards where we began 2 days before. The full distance and ascent. So the full distance of the 3-day trip was somewhere in the region of 33 kilometers, which when you convert it to miles, I think is somewhere around 21. And the elevation over 3 days was around 5,891 feet. So there we have it, more of an in-depth video. Can't wait till the end of this year, probably in a few weeks' time, where we start planning for 2026's longer snowshoe trip, this time in a bit more snow. If you've got any questions about this trip, including how we planned it or what we had to take into consideration, then leave a comment below and I will make sure that I get back to every single one of you. If I don't know the answer, I'll ask Gareth and he certainly will, or he'll be able to find it. Make sure you keep your eyes peeled for future videos. The best way to do that is to subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I'll see you soon.